So at this time, we're just going to do what we like to call an intimate conversation with the founder, establishmentarian, or whatever the fancy name we want to call you. And I've been selected to do that. We have a script, but I'm going to go a little bit off script. I want to set the scene. The year is 2015, and it's about 6 o'clock in the morning. And I get a call. And one of us was on the commode. I'm not going to say which one. But I got a call, and if you know Sean, he has these spurts where his excitement is just spilling out. Like he's going, you can almost like see his mind going and going. And so he calls me, and I'm probably wiping coal out of my eye or whatnot, and he says, "We got to do something for fathers." And I sat there and I was thinking like, okay, I mean, we could have talked about it at 6 p.m., but it's fine. But I want you to kind of go back to that time, and I want you to kind of just share where you were personally and how this was birthed.
Where I was at the time. At the time, I was I was a super dope father, um, and so I went on a trip, and I was on the trip just thinking like, man, every child should be able to have this experience, um, and so that was something that really triggered me in that moment. Um, but it was already brewing on the other side because I was working in a prison at the same time, and I seen a lot of men that were incarcerated that did not have access to their children, um, and myself, I had access to my father, but he wasn't really involved. And most of you guys heard that, right? And so and I'll just say my father and I have a super dope relationship today, and I'm glad that I was able to restore that relationship before he got into his current state where he has Alzheimer's, right? But we were able to restore that relationship to where I can talk about him in a healthy way. But that's where I was, George. But I was saying this as well. I was a great father, but I wasn't a great husband. And so that was the dilemma that I was having when I went to birth this, that I was this really good father, but not a great husband.
When I talk about the correlation of being not necessarily a great husband, a great significant other, co-parent, what have you, to the mother of your children.
Say that one more time.
You mentioned not being a great husband.
Yeah.
There is a correlation there, the way we interact, exchange, and with the mother of our children.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that correlation?
No, I think it's important, right? Because when I went to Leah and said, man, I want to start this organization, I reached out to you, James, and Jacoby, and all of you guys was like, let's do it, right? But my wife, she was supportive, but her question, and I could feel it in her, is like, man, how can you teach men how to be this amazing person and you're not being this husband that I need you to be? And so that was really one of the pivotal moments in this whole process, because you hear me say all the time that I never want to be a public success and a private failure. And so I began to really start doing the internal work, because I didn't want to stand on platforms like this and be a fraud, right? And so I had to start doing the internal work and building my house right, that my children would see how a man should really, really, really treat their mom, and vice versa. So that was important to me in establishing the foundation of this organization.
First of all, thank you for being transparent and sharing that in a room like this. We live in a very visual social media type where you get to see everyone's highlight reels. No one really ever talks about, the bloopers and different things like that. But it's vitally important, that we are focusing on the reality of our situations as opposed to the public perception of our situation. So we fast forward today, 9 years later, and you talked about the growth, and you can actually see it here as opposed to last year. Um, Tell us a little bit about where we stand today in InvolvedDad. Like, give us the address
Man,
of InvolvedDad.
this is crazy, man. there's so many people who have played a huge role in this. Man, from like honestly, like from funders to friends to partners, it was crazy because when I came to Raphael um, in 2015 with this idea, and he was at Community Foundation at the time, and he was really trying to help me, to put this thing together. But it was just myself and my wife at the time. That's all it was, and George, yes, right. And um, so he's putting this thing together, and what was helpful is that we had already established a relationship with the friend of the court, who is now Judge Tony McDowell, was the assistant deputy director, who then became the director. Was like, hey, we believe in them, we will be their partner. So that was the first thing that we did, and it was no staff. And so you say 9 years later, man, I'm so honored to say that we today have 30 um, team members. And we have our own building, and we have 7 programs. I say it again. I don't call my staff, they're my team. I have 30 team members, a building where we have our old programming in the building, and 7 to 8 programs. And so,
There you go. You gotta take your time. You're so good.
friend of the court is always there. You see that? Thank you. But yeah, so that's where we stand today.